Hey guys, I'm Drew Hanna. I'm the Deputy Director of Regional Operations for the South Central Territory and Team Rubicon. So if I haven't met you yet and you're in my territory, apologies for that. And if I haven't met you and you're not in my territory, hopefully we'll run into each other on a national op one of these days. I am also, in addition to currently being a staff member for Team Rubicon, a graduate of Cohort 5 of the Clay Hunt Fellowship. It was a little bit different format than what you guys are going to hear about tonight, but the heart and soul of the program remained the same. It's really just all about veteran reintegration, self discovery, and making you the best you that you can be. I think everybody who goes through the program gets something a little bit different out of it, but the common themes that you're going to hear are of its ability to really get you to focus inward, look at yourself, and see what you need to change to go out in the world and be a force for change and be a servant leader. So I'm really thankful to Tom Walmsley and Larry Montoya for jumping in to moderate this tonight. We know there's a ton of interest in the program, and I hope you guys brought some good questions and some awesome perspective. I am going to stop babbling at you now and hand it over to these two gentlemen. I know they have quite the agenda for you tonight, so we'll try to kick it off and get to it. So with that, Tom, Larry, the floor is yours.
Cool. So, just I guess first thing is maybe some of the ground rules. I think Drew got everyone muted. We'll try and do some Q&A at the end, but if you guys have questions as we go through, if you guys could just drop those in the chat. Larry's going to do his best to kind of monitor that, but we can kind of address those. I think we had this scheduled for 30 minutes. I'm not sure. We'll do our best to kind of be a good steward of your guys' time, and if it goes long, we'll at least you guys feel free to drop off. And if you guys have questions after, you can always reach out to one of us. What Larry and I kind of came up with an agenda is really just kind of a quick overview and intro of each other. We'll talk a little bit about the application and then really kind of jump into some Q&A that you guys might have. So I'll kind of kick it off. Like Drew said, my name is Tom Walmsley. I was with Cohort 7 of the Fellows Program. I'm here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've been with Team Rubicon for about 4 or 5 years. And I've been with TR for just over a year when I got in. I applied twice, so if you guys have been through the application process before and didn't get in, like I've been there, I get it. Keep trying. My cohort, like Drew's, was the kind of the year long program, and so the first 6 months of that are very much what base camp is today, which focuses on like the self discovery side of it. And then the second 6 months, not like there's like a cutoff between like the first and the second, but was a capstone project. And so for any of you guys that have done like the new leader onboarding, that was a big piece of what came out of our capstone project. And so it was pretty exciting. Um, like we talk about this being a program that kind of helps develop you, but I kind of like to focus a lot on like the leadership part of it and what you can gain as a leader out of that, especially a leader in Team Rubicon. But if you become a leader at work or somewhere else, just in life in general, that's kind of the goal of the program, or to help improve you. But if you ask me like how that improved me as a leader, I would say that like I'm much more self-aware as a person, as an individual. My communication skills, maybe not my verbal ones, but everything else that goes along with communication has definitely improved. Like communication expectations and like you guys will hear the term vulnerability a lot through the program, and that's just a big thing. And vulnerability as a strength, not as a weakness. Um, and kind of with strengths, I think I'm better able to recognize my own strengths and then the strengths of others, and not trying to fix someone's weakness, but to try and play along with their strengths and how we can work together. I will tell you that the program's all what you make it, what you put into it, what you're going to get out of it. Um, like I think for me, I've kind of had this continued drive after the program to continue to grow as a person, as a leader. So it doesn't stop after 6 months or after a year that you're there. Um, and that's kind of it for me as far as my experience with it. I could go on and on, but we want to kind of jump through it. So I'll kind of turn it over to Larry. You can talk a little bit about like his experience with it.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Uh, Larry Montoya. I'm part of Base Camp One. I initially for one of the last cohorts, I didn't get selected. It's a bummer. You know, you get you check all the blocks and everything's good to go, but it gets down to your interview. I mean, you got to be honest. Um, and maybe I wasn't. I definitely believe my second application I did a lot better job with my essay questions and just being more vulnerable and more honest during my interview process. British Camp One's been great. There's 11 of us, and it's been what a great, terrific group of people that I'm in the base camp with, led by a strong staff. But yeah, I've definitely enjoyed my journey so far. I graduate next month, end of July, and yeah, for those of you applying for base camps, it's such an honor, and I've learned so much from it. Just being the last 4.5, 5 months. It's been a great journey, and it's paid off a little bit. I got selected for a position within TR. Wasn't what I was what I was expecting, but I was honored to be selected for that stuff. And I think part of it was my interview skills and my interview process, as far as being more of a honest, not really honest, but more just vulnerable and just I don't know, just giving showing my true self, and it paid off for me. But go ahead, Tom.
Well, so a little bit about the program and more just like a general overview of what it looks like. You do some reading throughout it, so you guys will get assigned two different books that you'll read throughout the year, maybe like every 3 months and 6 months in. And you'll do a book club, which like I was never a big reader, and now like I can't stop reading. It definitely was just like a skill that I gained out of it. And so you do some reading that's out there. You guys will go through a variety of different assessments, like these, like the Myers-Briggs, the Gallup Strength Finder, the Enneagram. They try and find different things that are out there, and so you kind of get to learn a lot about yourself as a person, and you kind of start to be able to move this into here and there. And then you'll go through a program called U School, and if you've never heard of it, you can look it up. It's not something that's exclusive to Team Rubicon. But it's like anywhere from like an 8 to 12 week program. You'll go through that. Like Larry mentioned, there's a cohort of about 12 people. We tend to break that down into groups of like four. And so every week you'll kind of get through as like a chalk, and you'll talk about, different sections of U School. You'll have a partner for the year, what we call a swim buddy. And so like that's the person, one of your fellows that you can call at any, time and just, chat, share with. I talk to mine daily. I talk to my chalk out of there like pretty much every day. So you definitely build some really cool friendships and bonds through the program. I know a couple of us thought like, hey, is this kind of like the real world? And it's not. Like you're not living together. A lot of you folks may have been familiar with some of the fellows program that we had that did the rebuild. And that's kind of we've transitioned back into the base camp model. So that's kind of Larry and I. That's us. Again, we're definitely here if you guys ever have questions as far as more experience or what we gained out of it. But what we wanted to kind of talk about is the actual application process itself. And so the very first thing that you guys will need to submit with this is your resume. And kind of we've gotten questions of like, what kind of resume are you looking for? Are you looking for like one that's catered directly to this or that? And like honestly, it's kind of a mixture of a personal and professional. It's who you are, and so we're trying to. I've been on the peer review quite a few times now, and we're trying to put a picture together of like who this person is. Whether it's from the day they entered military service and until today. Just what that's like. Including some of your TR roles or things you've done with Team Rubicon. You don't have to be a volunteer leader to be selected for this or to apply for this. But we're definitely trying to get like an understanding of who you are and Team Rubicon. Your military service records, and again, that's typically your DD-214. There's some other forms that are acceptable if you're getting ready to transition out. There's some guidance on the website on as far as the documentation that will be required with that. The next big thing, and we get a lot of questions on this. I'm kind of happy with actually one of the things that Drew came out with, but it's your letter of recommendation. And I think on the website it says that it should be from a Team Rubicon leader or Team Rubicon staff. And and they're trying to like again, we're trying to set a picture of who you are, and kind of why this would be a good fit for you. And so I've seen quite a few of these just like generic letter of recommendations that someone got from some high-ranking person, and it doesn't really like kind of tell the story of like who you are and why you would benefit from this program. And so like Larry asked me to write like his letter of recommendation, and it's not the same type of letter of recommendation I would write for Larry for a job. Like I'm not going to say Larry's the best person out there. I want to talk about like why I think Larry would benefit from this program. And so, when you guys have that conversation with the person that you asked to like write that letter of recommendation, be ready to maybe have like something you may not take to a job interview, right? It's a letter of recommendation why they think you would benefit from the program. And so it's kind of an awkward conversation to have, but Drew came out with actually like some pretty good guidance as far as if you were to ask him to write a letter of recommendation. It's not going to be at the last minute, and he's going to want to like set some time up to have some conversations with you through that. And so maybe we can share that at the end with everybody, Drew, or we can work on something for that. And then the next big piece of the application is the essay questions, and I'm not going to like kind of dive into each essay question that's in there. But I would tell you that what we're looking for in that review process is kind of an understanding of who you are. And so like we don't need like a book, right? Like I think like me, I like to write. So like it used to have a character count of like 1,000 words, and like I went right to that limit. But like enough that you're kind of explaining, the responses there. And so like one or two sentences probably isn't going to move you on to the next round, but that doesn't mean you need to write, like 7 or 8 paragraphs. If your grammar is poor like mine, that's okay. Like we don't grade for, like that. But again, like it's enough that we can understand like what you're trying to get across. And I think I've read all levels of responses that are in there. And then like ultimately, to not write a book. And so that application, right, it goes through a quick administrative review, and they're going to make sure that all the documentation that's been required is listed in there. And believe it or not, we may lose like 15 or 20 out of 200 people that apply just based on they didn't submit this or didn't submit that. So they do that. The peer review is the next big piece of it. And so what they do is they ask the different alumni to split up, and we'll each get 5 or 6 different packets that we're looking through. And I will tell you, I'm not comparing one person to the next, but we're kind of looking at how you guys answer those questions, and it's not like I rate one against the other. But we're looking to understand like who you are as a person. And are you at a point in your life where the fellows program is going to be a good fit for you? And I would tell you, like I mentioned before, like I didn't get into the first round, and I was really upset. But when I went back and looked, like I wasn't at a place that it made sense for me. Like I wasn't ready to like Larry mentioned, to be vulnerable, to open up and to share those things. So. Again, not getting in isn't a bad thing. Like for me, it was kind of one of the better things that happened, because it reset me as far as what I was looking for. And so it goes through a peer review process. I don't know the exact number, but we may see maybe 150 to 200 applicants on the first, at peer review. And that may go down to like 30 or 40, and they'll schedule a video interview. And it's going to be a panel discussion. They're going to ask you kind of a variety of questions, like some fun, some not. And again, like Larry mentioned, like just like being honest with those questions, like not answering the answer you think that someone wants to hear. It's your answer, and really just to focus on having that. And then if you make it through the interview, the video interview, it will go onto a selection board. And at that point, they'll select anywhere for, the 12 different fellows for the cohort. And so that's kind of the process that's there. I know there's probably some technical questions that hopefully are addressed on the website as far as like if I applied before, do I resubmit the paperwork? I guess if it were me, I always just reattach things. Michael had told me, Michael Davidson, who runs the program, he said, "Hey, Tom, all of your stuff was great. Just reapply next year and think about the interview itself." But I still redid all my essay questions just because I was obviously at a different point in life, and that's just kind of who I am. So that's kind of the program, just a quick overview. And so I'm going to kind of take that first question there. If I'm in a leadership role, do I need to step down? And the answer is like you don't have to, right? It's going to depend on where you're at and the bandwidth that you have to be able to do things. I will tell you that like I tried to do the state admin job and go through, the fellows program, and it just didn't work. Like I would not recommend doing it. I would tell most people not to do that. But I also worked full time and tried to move and did like 10 other things at once. And so like I didn't have the bandwidth to do it. Like Larry, on the other hand, Larry doesn't have like a role, but Larry's just like super involved with everything. But Larry's also retired, so Larry has the bandwidth to do that. So that's going to be like a conversation that like you guys would have, and whether that's with, like your immediate leadership, having the conversation with Drew to kind of figure out what that looks like. Again, a lot of the purpose of this is to build stronger leaders within the program. So we don't want you to like leave and feel like you can't come back. But we want you to be able to focus on you developing you during this time, and the organization will continue to kind of go on. So hopefully that covers some of the leadership piece. I'm 72 years young. I will tell you that the program fits anybody at any age. Like a lot of people will say, like, "Hey, I'm a little bit older. I don't want to take an opportunity away from somebody that maybe is just transitioning out at 25 years old and still has a lot to go." I would still encourage you to do it, right? Like there's things that we become a cohort. So like you have plenty of growth to do at that age that I did at a younger age. So I think it's a good fit. And whether it's for you to help mentor or for you to help grow. That's kind of, I guess, maybe my 2 cents. I don't know if you had anything on that, Larry, as someone that's older than I am.
Yeah, thanks, man. Hey, no, I tell you what, this COVID stuff going on right now, some folks are holding on to leadership roles as well as to the fellowship, and man, they got bombarded with work. With all these operations that popped up everywhere, and so they've had to really focus on continuing to do well in U school. So yourself. If you need to step back and really focus on this, which I would recommend, best you can, just focus on the program. U school is no joke. There's a lot of reading and writing, as well as your daily stoic and all the questions that you get in your soul salon. So yeah, I would recommend you take a step back. That way you can focus on U school.
Larry, what about you retired, so you've been, I'm going to say like in that like old, I don't want to say older transitional period. What would you maybe say about that?
It's it absolutely. I think you would do great in the program. I mean, apply for it. It's not about age at all. My base camp probably ranges from, I don't know, 26 to 55. I'm not the 55 though. Somebody else. Um, but absolutely, yeah, don't let age hold you back. Absolutely not. Apply, and if you're what Clay Hunt Fellowship is looking for, you will definitely find out soon enough.
Thanks. So Tina, you had a question about the cover letter, and I do apologize for skipping that as far as one of the items that's in there. Again, the cover letter, like I've seen anything from like I'm interested, please, thank you, to something that's been close to 2 pages. Again, the folks that are like myself that like I'm reviewing this, like we purposely like we list people that we see on there that like, hey, like I'm not going to review Larry's because I have a personal relationship with him. So for the most part, that first peer reviewer has no idea who you are, what I'm gonna say your role in the organization, but what your involvement in with the organization or anything like that. And so you want to try and include maybe like just enough about you as you know like your experiences with Team Rubicon. And again, like, hey, I just joined and I think this is a good thing. I've done a lot of stuff, you know, or you know I've been out on 100 ops. Like the more ops you do doesn't put you at a higher level as far as applying. Even my cohort, you know, we had a lot of people that you know signed up after Harvey and went versus folks that had applied multiple times and been around for a really long time. Um, and so I think the cover letter again, it's like I think you put on there like my story again, like that reviewer, that peer reviewer is trying to get an understanding of who you are and how you fit in there, and you know you're kind of like what you expect or your expectations out of the program. You kind of have a question about feedback. I know that we've tried to do that, at least here in the South Central, as far as being able to get some feedback from the Fellows program and doing some one-on-one conversations with that. It's something you guys can definitely request from the CHFP leadership team and say like, hey, I didn't get in. Can I get some feedback? And then if not, like again, following up with the leadership, with Drew or you know whatever. I know we have some folks from
Mhm.
outside the South Central asking like the DDROs to kind of give you some feedback as far as you know what you could benefit out of there.
Um,
Um,
could I say something real quick?
yeah,
Well, I've gotten feedback on this last time I got all the way to the selection board and didn't make it. And the feedback I got were that my essays were awesome, my interview was awesome, and I got to the selection board and I'm sitting there going, I don't know why, and I never got an answer. If it was just like so many, they said I was like the final 15 or 20, but I don't know what the criteria is when people are so close to that point, if that makes sense.
yeah, Tina, and I kind of wish I knew the answer for you. I don't. You know, like we kind of there's not like a template that says like you checked all these blocks
Right,
and
right.
you fit right there's I feel like they're making some type of like soup or something like that, right? Like building this cohort. So like each cohort's going to be a little bit different, and you know what they're looking for is also the same. Like I'm kind of happy I'm not part of that because that would be one of the harder decisions to make as far as who gets selected on that. But again, I would just tell you to keep trying and to not give up. You know what I mean? Like again, like my cohort, there's people that had applied multiple times and didn't get in versus, you know, they got in the first time and it was just, are you at the right point for you?
hmm Well,
Yeah, that's a great point because if there's 14 outstanding applicants and they only take 12, that's difficult. That's super difficult. You know, they're having to go back through all of your records and everything else, and
hmm
you know what
Mhm.
is it that you know it could have been anything, but yeah, definitely stay after it. You know, I hope you get
well,
selected.
I've got my application ready to submit, but I'm waiting till the 29th because that's my birthday, and I'm hoping I'll get like a delayed birthday present.
Hey, so I think that was it for as far as stuff in the chat. Did anyone else have any other questions that they wanted to throw out there?
Tom, did you want to touch base to see if there is anybody who is interested in getting additional feedback on their packets before they submit them?
What do you mean by that, Drew?
And I mean, Tom kind of touched on this earlier a little bit, guys. But you know, one of the things that I have done is developed a little bit of prerequisites for people who I write letters of recommendation for. which I mean, it's nothing real earth shattering. It's basically just making sure that they've taken the time to prepare their packets before we talk, because I want them to have thought about what they're getting themselves into and to have thought about the questions that the program is asking of them before they submit to it. It's not anything real earth shattering, but you'd be surprised that sometimes people are answering it from, like Tom was saying earlier, they're writing from the perspective of, I'm trying to get into this job, or I don't want them to see vulnerable me. I want them to see awesome me. I want them to see the ass kicking, saw swinging, badass former paratrooper, whatever it is that you kind of present to the world as your outward face, which is, in a lot of ways, the opposite of what the program's intended to do. It's really intended to drill into the interview and build that piece up so that it complements the badass outward you that you have, shown to the world, and probably still will show to the world. Let's be honest. Um, and so that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from. But so I'd say, like, if you guys want to have somebody, especially like an alumni or a staff member, look at it, it's worth the time to have somebody take a look at it, especially somebody familiar with the fellowship. And if you guys are interested in that, we can connect you with those alumni, because we all know each other, and make sure you get somebody's second set of eyes before you submit it blindly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Tom,
hopefully, everyone. This is what hopefully can someone give me a thumbs up as far as they can see that on the screen. Yeah.
I can
So
see it, Tom.
okay, yeah, Drew put this out through our channel here, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of, like, maybe more of my personal opinion. Like, if, like, Larry had sent over his interview questions to me, and I'm not going to rewrite them for him, right? I'm gonna pose some thought back to him, and right, like, I'm not going to tell him what to write because it's his, but I may say, like, hey, did you think about maybe going a little bit more in depth about this? And so, like, really, that's the kind of the level of feedback, and it's not like, not to be rude, right? But we want that to be like your application and your words that are in there, and not just a check the block kind of thing. But I think we're all willing, like, to get people, involved in the process, and to, hopefully get the same level of benefit that we've all gotten out of this.
I guess if I had something to have you guys look at is, have friends, have family members read your essay questions. A lot of times you'll figure out, sometimes you'll be like, hey, this doesn't really make sense. My cat is killing me. Sorry about that. The, and make sure, again, do self-service, man. Make sure you have that checklist. Make sure you mark off everything before you submit it, that you haven't forgotten anything. Because like Tom was saying, there's people who get knocked off right off the bat. They've spent a month preparing for this thing and then forget to submit the cover letter, or forget something simple, and they're out. It's a heartbreaker. When you guys get to your interview phase, man, set yourself up for failure. Failure. Oh, good night. For success. Find a quiet place where you can go and have your interview. You get an email asking you for a good time for your interview. Schedule a time when you can kind of be by yourself, not in the back of a CTL on your way to South Dakota like I had. Um, do yourself a favor and make sure you prepare for that interview phase as well.
Cool. Any other questions, comments, concerns? We're right at 30 minutes. I was actually like, man, is 30 minutes enough? And it looks like it is. So,
I have a really
um,
quick comment.
all right.
If anyone else here has applied before, make sure you look at the essay questions carefully, because they've added one and they've changed the wording on some.
So I actually
Since the
had a lot of
last.
input on those. I'm really, really excited about some of the changes.
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple of them threw me for a loop because I was like, what the, but I'm working on those, so. Yeah, but I just wanted to bring that to people's attention because I thought about not saying anything for a while, just like a little selfish part of me was like, hey, if they don't pay attention, knock them out of the competition kind of thing. But, the better part of me won out on that one.
And there was a question in the chat from Dean. He was wondering, like, hey, if I'd like someone to take a look at it, who do I reach out to? Everybody should have gotten an email from the roll call service account that has Larry's, my, and Tom's email addresses on there. So really easy to just reply all to that with your materials, and either we'll take a look at it or we'll get you to somebody who has the bandwidth to check it out. Depending on how many people take us up on this offer, we may not be able to handle all of you guys, but definitely appreciate the interest. And if you did not get that email, drop a question in the chat or speak now. We can figure it out. With that, I'm going to kill the recording on this.